I'm Nicole Pedalides at the New York Stock Exchange. Live interviews, market movers, and real-time coverage right from the floor. Subscribe now at schwabnetwork.com.
The final 90 minutes of the trading day, that's when markets make headlines and traders make decisions.
From earnings shocks to sector rotations, we're tracking the catalysts that move markets right into the close.
Here on the floor, I bring you real-time sentiment from traders driving the action.
And in Chicago, we break down the data, technicals, and trades you need to see before the bell rings.
Live coverage of the close every single day.
This is
Market on Close, live weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Schwab Network.
Am I hearing two people, or am I tripping?
Welcome back to Morning Movers. I'm Diane King Hall coming to you live from the New York Stock Exchange. Time now for the economy check. For that, let's go right over to Alex Coffey, co-host of Next Gen Investing in our Chicago studio. All right, Alex, so day ahead today, we've got triple witching happening. We've got oil gyrations. I know we're taking a step back, but take us through what you're thinking about what markets will be watching today.
Yeah, I think it begins and ends with crude oil still, Diane, unfortunately, and particularly that spread between Brent crude and WTI crude, which is still out over $12 a barrel, which is pretty unique compared to what we've seen in sort of more normalized times. So something to watch for sure. All things said, what we saw yesterday towards the close, I thought was interesting for equities as they firmed up into the close. Really, that last hour of trade, you saw a tremendous recovery in equity markets. The conflict still rages on. As a result, you're still going to have volatility around headlines, and in pockets of kind of quiet is when those big moves tend to happen. So overnight, you'll see bigger moves as those headlines happen, perhaps middle of the day sometimes. The nice thing about a triple witching day is they're not really quiet days. They're very heavy volume days just by the nature of what happens on those mornings.
Set up the premieres on the streams.
Stock index options,
it's all set up, but
stock
then
index futures,
that'll be two separate ones. I don't understand why it doesn't
to one just after the bell. That frees up a lot of
obviously
capital
I've been lazy.
for
I'll
major players, and they're able to kind of slowly but surely rebuild those positions over the
exciting
quarter.
news is I finally got my multi-screen setup going, so that's why I'm looking around like as if I don't know where my camera is. But it's really cool.
Is that you're not going to have as much sort of pockets of
I'm starting to feel more and more like
that
one
really
of these
presents
guys,
those
and
big move potentials. That said,
just not really
all that volume
wasting my
gets
time as
one-sided.
much as I thought
it can
I was.
happen just simply because it's a heavier volume day. Long way to say, expect some volatility, but that's really been the name of the
that's
game
also
for the past
annoying
several
is
weeks,
that
and it's reflected by the price of the VIX, which is still in the mid-20s.
I do have to figure out
Okay, so expect both volume and volatility today,
that works,
even on a day when you've got March Madness, because sometimes
it'll be really convenient when all that's all preset and all
the
that.
TVs get going down here. Let's talk about the Fed. I know we don't have any economic data, but we're out of the quiet period. We're post-decision on rates, right? We have some Fed speakers today, but we have the head of the Fed set to speak tomorrow.
One more expectations.
Yeah, so you're going to get Bowman speaking, may already have with Fox Business. You're going to get Waller either as we're speaking right now, or perhaps in moments, I believe, with CNBC. And then tomorrow, as you mentioned, Jerome Powell is going to have some remarks. Now, I should clarify, this is a pre-recorded award acceptance for an ASPA annual conference virtual event. I don't know that you're going to get a lot of market movement in that pre-recorded award acceptance I guess, provided speech. So probably not a lot to do with monetary policy as much as we want it to be. But you never know. Jerome Powell speaking can always move the markets.
Show love, man. We got, you can show love just by tips, but then
planned
real love,
comments,
actually,
and,
is
then you get
buy
the
a
Q&A,
hoodie.
and that's where
You
you
know,
get some,
be a walking
maybe
billboard. That's
slight
real love.
differences. But we got
And you look
questions
good, you know what I
answered
mean?
with
It's not
regard to,
I don't just
how
want,
long he's going to stay at the
you know,
Fed.
I want you guys to really be
Waiting
about
for
it
the
and
DOJ
like rock
probe
with
to
us,
finish
quite
what
literally
happens
rock it.
next with regard to
So,
Warsh and
I
his
mean, if you feel
confirmation.
this, and
So, I imagine that's something
you know,
that's
you
going to
want
be
to have
top
that
of mind,
energy
but
all
we may not
day.
get any further details on that. With regard to him speaking tomorrow, but I'm sure we'll get a lot of headlines. And one of the things that stands out to me in this most recent Fed decision is there was only one dissent, right? And we know in the previous cycle there were a couple of dissents, right? So that's something that stood out to me. And I guess we'll watch for more commentary on that from, say, Bowman and Waller as well, since we've seen dissent from them. When you think about the week ahead, what's on your radar, Alex?
Now I can't
earnings
even.
super light, so nothing there. Geopolitical headlines, hopefully something that's moving
They're
towards a
trying to- they
resolution
don't want you to win.
will start to be, I guess, delivered or
want you to
framed next
win.
week. We'll see if that ultimately happens. Crude oil is a great place to look in financial markets to get an idea of what the sentiment is around the Middle Eastern conflict that we're dealing with right now. Other than that,
the one day
from an
where I don't
eco
have it
data
up there, people are
standpoint,
gonna
there's
try
not a
to
ton until later in the
donate
week.
and be like,
But I'm going to be
okay,
looking forward to the University of Michigan sentiment. Now, it is the final reading, doesn't tend to be as volatile as that first look. Jobless claims, though, every Thursday is appointment viewing at the moment. You do get some PMI preliminary figures as well for March from S&P Global. That'll be on the 24th, which is, I believe, Tuesday morning. So Tuesday morning, just after the open, we'll get some of those numbers. And then you mentioned the Fed. Towards the end of next week, Thursday and Friday, you get Fed's Jefferson speaking on the U.S. economy. You get Daly speaking at a monetary policy conference, and Paulson speaking on macroeconomics and monetary policy. So while Jerome Powell this weekend probably not going to give much comments on policy, I'd expect all three of those to make market headlines.
All right, thank you, Alex. That's Alex Coffey, co-host of Next Gen. And you can catch Alex later this afternoon and throughout today's session.
It's the only thing to make headlines right now,
landscape
yeah,
for
end of the
corporate and
war.
investment banks and how they're
Which makes
using
sense.
AI to try and stay ahead of the game.
We
Morning
have no
Movers will be
idea
right
what
back.
real war is anymore. Very much too
Trading at
comfortable
Schwab
over here.
is powered by Ameritrade.
Well, no, that's the whole
Unlocking
point. I
power
can't
of
say
Thinkorswim,
two, but
the award-winning trading platform.
this does a lot to
Bring your
you.
trades into focus on Thinkorswim desktop with robust charting and analysis tools, including over 400 technical studies. Tailor the platforms to your unique
Perception
needs with nearly
or whatever.
endless customization. And track market trends with up-to-the-minute
How
news and
the
insights.
world really works, yeah.
Trade brilliantly with Schwab.
Can't we all just get along?
Live from Chicago,
And
this
even
is
now, that's a
Trading
naive
360.
thing to say,
I'm Marley
too.
Caden. We track macro forces, market trends, and company news that shape
I
investor
really
decisions.
don't get why
all with
people
expert
can't just get on the
analysis
same
and actionable
page.
context.
There
From
has to be
inflation
me
data to
against
sector
you.
rotations, earnings to policy.
That's
Get a
against them.
comprehensive view of the market every
Retarded.
trading day. Trading 360. In-depth market coverage straight
Sorry,
from
I'm
Chicago.
getting all
Weekdays at
bleak
11
and
a.m. Eastern on Schwab
existential.
Network.
Worry about money. No feelings.
Welcome to Schwab Network, where real-time market coverage meets expert strategy.
From the opening bell to the closing bell, we've got you covered.
Get inside the minds of pro traders.
My point is that they're getting a higher rate of change in sales based on their guidance, but not
That's
the
what
same
we
rate of
haven't
change
done yet.
on
We ain't
the
even
ETFs.
smoked. What are we
biggest
doing?
headlines, live analysis, breaking news, and sharp trade ideas minute by minute.
With shows built for action,
When
we
it
break
comes
it
to
all
me,
down
yeah,
in
waking
real
up
time
is
with speed,
3/4 of the
accuracy,
battle.
and precision.
I think one of the most important things is you're making a play in a risk-defined way here going into earnings.
So that would be a further downside area to watch.
But I would love to know what everybody's trading on. You know, that's just something any community has to start doing. Like, what's making you money? You know.
24/7, any screen.
And why
anywhere,
is it that you
free.
get to make money? Oh, I
SchwabNetwork.com.
just gave you an. I have to remember where my camera is.
Dad, I have a
Sorry.
question for you.
You're very lucky I have
When did
pants on.
Granddad first start investing?
Granddad had an account with Schwab before there were branches in the area. He really started with nothing. He worked hard, and after he passed away, the torch has been passed to me, and my advisor Jennifer, she was with me with the journey, helping with the estate distribution. Two grandchildren, planning for their college educations. Someday it'll be their turn.
This is Fast Market, built for traders who want more than just headlines.
We walk you through trade ideas with structure, risk management, and a focus on execution.
From options to earnings to volatility plays, we bring decades of trading experience to every segment.
There we
With
go.
real-time insight across products and
Act like I've done this
we
before.
deliver what active traders need to stay ahead. Fast Market weekdays at noon Eastern,
Which
live on
stamp?
Schwab Network at schwabnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Morning Movers. I'm Diane King Hall coming to you live from the floor of the New York Stock
We don't
Exchange.
have
We want to turn
those.
our attention to the
Earnings,
landscape for
bro.
corporate and investment banking, the competitive landscape.
Wow,
For
we
insight,
finally got
we
an
welcome
easy
in our
first
next
one.
guest. That's Kartik
They usually be trying to
Ramakrishnan,
dog
CEO,
me and
Capgemini
just like
Financial Services.
all confidence out the
Kartik,
gate.
thank you so much for joining us this morning. You say that essentially your data shows that corporate investment banks are at an inflection point as far as the competitive landscape.
A bond with a 5%
Clients are
coupon
increasingly
trading
turning to
discount
private
on
credit. I'm curious about that, especially with all the worries about private
Trading
credit
at a
that we had
discount.
before this geopolitical unrest that has taken our attention, the war with Iran. Take us through what your data shows us now.
Absolutely. Good morning.
The current
and
yield
thank you
will
for
be
having me
lower
on the show.
discount.
As we look at what our report shows, and our report has been built on
Whatever,
interviews of
lower
both
than that.
corporates and corporate investment banks together, so we get both perspectives. And
A
as we
yield to
look at where
maturity
corporates
higher
are
than
looking at
current yield.
what they are looking in terms
For a
of where they want to go
discount
for
bond,
credit,
the
we're
yield
seeing an increased reliance on private credit. So
nominal
if you look at
yield
private credit
is
between
greater.
2020 and 2025, it has grown
Greater than
significantly, and
yield
our
to
research shows it's going to continue that trend. Yes,
it
there are
includes the
some
capital gain from the
short-term issues that we see right now, but we expect over the period of time it'll increase, and that's largely driven by
What's sad is it's not that
the
complicated. It's just
need and the
complicated for
speed at
my
which
brain.
private credit offers services
That's
to
where
corporates
it's kind of shoddy.
relative to what banks are able to offer. So that competition that they're seeing in
bond
terms
yield
of
relationships
private
are
credit and
nominal
fintechs
yield.
and all of those people coming into the marketplace is putting pressure on the corporate and investment
Less than.
Okay, but let me ask you this: when we hear about, there's an
Nominal
IPO
yield
that's
is
going to be
less than
happening
current
today here at
yield
the
is
Stock
less than
Exchange,
yield to
Janice.
maturity.
And whenever you have
Nominal is less
IPOs,
than
the
current.
banks that
Current
are around
is
them are
less
ones
than
you
yield to
know. It's a
maturity.
JP Morgan Chase, it's a Goldman, Morgan
Commercial
Stanley,
papers,
etc.
government
You name the
issued.
heavyweight, that's who's
This
bringing the
is
company to public
short-term
markets.
unsecured. Yeah.
Why do you think that there is a shift?
120 days. Oh, 270.
Well, I guess
What was the
it's less
120?
about just the IPOs and launches. Where
Maybe it
we
is
are looking at
270.
it is, if you
I
look
guess
at
it
a
is
corporate and
270.
what they rely on a corporate and investment bank for, largely it's you look at
270. Yeah,
lending,
that's
you
if
look
you
at
need a little
treasury,
money to get
you
into
look at
something like a
FX,
special
and you look at all the
placement
key
or
things
something
that
like
a
that.
corporate investment bank offers.
Or
We're
some
seeing
type of placement. Yeah, I
elements
don't think
of
special
each of
placement. That's
those
like millions.
being attacked
Which
by
statement
either
is
fintechs or private credit providers. So lending is under attack
which statement
from
is
private
true
credit. You
about
see a treasury being attacked by fintechs. There are providers that are able to provide better integration to finance systems. So it ultimately comes down to the experience that CFOs and corporate treasury owners are looking at in terms of what
age would.
they are
I don't know
getting
why
from the
sex
banks
would,
relative
but
to what
age
they're getting
definitely.
from other providers in the
Amounts are
marketplace.
determined solely
Okay, and then let
by-
me ask you, with the role of private credit and other non-bank players, I guess taking more market share here, is there something to be said about
non-qualified, why would you be
the
tax-free?
decision-making speed or efficiency? Is that part of it?
It's very much part of it. Very
Life
much so.
only annuity equals the
private
highest
credit
payment,
is
no
still,
guarantees. Joint survivor,
offers higher
lowest
interest
payment,
rates than what
covers 2 lives.
what banks are able to offer. But the trouble for banks
Which
is that
document would
the
an investor
time and
receive
the
when
flexibility
purchasing
by which they
securities in a
can offer
regulation deemed
a
private
product
placement?
is so much
Which
longer than
document
what
would an
private credit
investor
offers. So
receive
it's the speed,
when
it's the
purchasing
flexibility, it's the customization through which private
something
credit
that has
is
to do
actually winning in
something
the
with
marketplace.
Reg D?
Okay, and what about AI? Because when we think about
Prospectus.
investment banks, a lot of them are obviously leaning into AI. Why doesn't that, kind of stand up as a differentiator for the stronghold they've had?
My firm belief is it will.
Official stamp.
It's a matter
Yeah.
of time. With a lot of
If it's
these
special, yeah, you
initiatives,
gotta see how
AI
many
is such a
seats are there.
transformational set of technologies.
Investors and regulated
that it takes
placements. So you receive an offering,
time for
private
it to get
placement
incorporated into
that
banks,
describes
as
offering terms,
everybody has
risks,
a
and
very
other material
short-term,
information.
rapid
This
expectation of results
is
from AI.
used
But
instead
if you
of
actually look at what it takes to get
because the offering
an organization transformed, the culture of the organization transformed, it does take time. So
I don't even know
what we saw
prospectus
between
is.
24 and 25 was a lot of foundational input.
Prospects
We're
on
going to see
something.
some
So I
of
guess
that
it's like a statement.
translate from coming out of the lab into a little bit into
More
the real
official
world.
intent.
But what I expect is over a period of time, AI will have a significant impact both on the ability to offer new products and accelerate what they do in the market, and equally start to look at their cost structures, because cost structures will improve once they're able to put efficiency through AI.
Okay, and Kartik, tell me a little bit about the pain points that you heard in the collection of data.
Yeah, so if you look at the pain points from the corporate side, for them, a lot of it came down to
If
some
he
of the
didn't
things
make
that I
any
talked
money,
about,
right?
which is
If he wasn't paid
their
at all.
expectations are not being met. It's taking longer for them to get
If he didn't
the
make any
services
money.
that they want to offer. They don't have a comprehensive front door from the bank to provide the whole range of services.
Pre-organization
They're finding other sources that
subscriptions
provide
are always
greater speed.
exempt. No.
The challenges from the bank side are there is legacy, there is technology, there is compliance,
Okay,
there is
that's all I
cyber,
need to know.
and all of those things slow things down. So our own experience with one of the banks was in terms of deploying AI, they wanted to accelerate their KYC process with AI. We built something, it took us a few weeks to build it. It took them 9 months to take it live. So that creates immense frustration with the bankers in terms of being able to find ways by which they can move faster. So a lot of those things in terms of process as they get established within banks, in terms of how to trust AI and how to
Customer
have those
grants are
established, we will see that acceleration come
attorney.
through in 26 and early into 27.
And then what does this mean for the business model
Under
going
what
forward
circumstances
from here?
does this authorization terminate?
Well, I think
It's not durable
if we talk
through-
specifically about AI, we're going to see both the ability to significantly compress cost to serve. So if you look at the market, which is
non-durable.
what we expect the CIB market to do is the growth is going to slow down, which means to get positive jaws, you got to squeeze cost. AI is going to help on that. But equally, and people haven't even begun to scratch the surface on this, the ability to use AI to launch new innovative products, more real-time products are going to start to emerge in the coming quarters and years.
All right, thank you, Kartik. Kartik Ramakrishnan, sorry about that. Capgemini Financial Services, we appreciate your time this morning. Coming up, time for Options Corner. Tom White will join us to take a look at Cheniere Energy after B of A boosted its price target on shares. He'll break down the technicals and give us an example trade next on Morning Movers.
Okay, non-durable.
investors,
It does not
you know the market
survive
moves.
incapacity.
Schwab is here to help you move with it.
Okay, that's what I was
so,
actually
whether
looking
you're
for.
buying,
Alright.
selling, holding, or planning, whether you're ETFing or 401k'ing,
It's kind
saving,
of sad thing to
spending,
think about.
or even retiring, you
According
can count on
to-
Schwab for market insights, live support,
Stay healthy, yeah.
powerful trading platforms,
According
and
to the
400
Strong
branches,
Form,
all at your
insightful
service,
analysis
all so you can
potentially
invest
produce
your
success
way.
returns.
Sounds nice, right?
I'm Alex Coffey.
And I'm Jenny Horn. This is Next Gen Investing, where we track the trends shaping tomorrow's markets.
From tech to energy, crypto to consumer, we focus on what's driving investor sentiment right now.
Clear analysis and forward-looking market
That
coverage
one was kind
every
of a
trading
trick
day.
question. It's like
This
too
is a
easy.
make or
Yeah,
break
if you
level
cheat.
for this stock. And that could certainly be a short to near-term catalyst.
Annual
Next Gen
contribution
Investing,
limit
1
for a
p.m.
covered L.
Eastern.
Only on Schwab Network.
She looks like you, Dad.
Aw, she's got your smile.
Carl.
Yep.
Is
the
it
number
2 or
one broker's
7?
here to welcome your new little dependent.
Actually, we invest with Schwab.
Is it 2?
They have everything we need
I think it's
all in
2.
one place.
I can set up her college fund.
I've been learning about
Covered
trading
L's, that's
strategies.
okay.
Schwab helps me generate
Unlike, yeah,
retirement
where
income.
All this Schwab is everything you need is making me
ESA
cranky.
contributions
Does somebody
eliminated
need a
to
map?
open position beneficiary unlike 529 plans.
Invest your way.
with Schwab.
Also have.
Real-time market moves, earnings breakdowns,
Yeah, see, there's hella minutes.
trade-ready
It fucking
insights.
sucks.
Follow me on X at Sam_Vardis and connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram for more.
Who even wants to cover though? That makes no sense. The dude just named it after his last
Sometimes, you
name.
know, you could have done better. Same goes for where you invest. Level up and invest smarter with Schwab.
We're back on Morning Mover. Shares of Cheniere Energy rallied to a record high yesterday, and today BofA boosting its price target on shares to 322 from 296. It's keeping a buy rating. The move follows Israel's attack on the Iran South Pars gas field on Wednesday, which said it will take 3 to 5 years for the repairs. Time now for Options Corner. Here to take us through a look at the chart and an example trade. We've got Tom White, senior options contributor and co-host of Fast Market. All right, Tom, this has had a monster run this year. Take us through what you notice on this chart.
Yeah, uncertainty in the energy markets
That's like
definitely
right there,
helping out the stock here
Yeah,
today.
the
I mean, if you
55
look at it, it
separation wall
was
allows
relatively muted over the last year. We got a one-year, one-day chart here, and I wanted to put a couple of simple moving averages on here to give you some context
That's
of what
cool.
we're seeing as far as
Come on, let
momentum
him-
goes.
yeah, let him go.
Here, we've got in the dark blue. We've got the 200-day simple moving
Worked
average.
hella
That's been
hard,
relatively
giving them
steady, but now we're starting to see
investment advice
this big
reports.
cup handle, cup
like 5 years.
forming here on the 50-day simple moving average, which is just
20
about to
minutes
break
since I
through
saw
that
that one.
200-day moving average. The
When
golden
interest
cross,
rates
a lot of
rise, what's
people,
typically-
technicians like to look at that as an area that this opens up the stock for even more gains. But you look at the parabolic move that we've had. Stock's up over 45% so far this year with crude oil prices up over 40%, natural gas prices. Those have been languishing a little bit, but that disruptions in the Middle East are going to cause maybe this stock to kind of benefit from that. Now, I've got another chart here that's going to look at some other momentum levers that maybe that traders should be focusing on. We've got the volume profile up here. Big area of support now, back down at the 235 level at this point. So that's one area that you can look at. And then also little node right here around the 255, 260 level, which might act like an area of support also. But you've got to remember, this might not be a technical type of move. This is more
So we just get commissions.
a move
It's not
based
ours.
on supply, demand, and disruptions and uncertainties here. And finally, you look down here.
It's a markup or
momentum on the
markdown if they're
RSI.
in the
We're getting
dealer
above
capacity.
the 80 level here for
See,
RSI.
we
So
listen.
anything above 70 on that relative strength index is considered overbought. So we're overbought on a technical level, but that doesn't really matter because there's so many variables that
Municipal
are driving
bonds
the
are
stock. But a
generally
couple
not
of key levels to
recommended
kind of keep a
for
watch on
placement in
here,
retirement
Diane, in the
accounts
shares.
because
Okay, a great
they're
point
just
that you
mad
mentioned.
liquid.
And overbought, but you know, there's the context
Oh.
of what's happening in terms of the war with Iran. So, what's the approach you would take for an example trade?
Well, I use that one node around the 255, 260 level to kind of construct an example trade here
They have
in the
lower
shares.
yields.
If you think that
corporate
maybe, hey,
bonds.
it is overbought, maybe it is due to pull back, maybe we get
Well,
some
I
type
mean,
of
that's the easy way to
resolution
say it.
in the Middle East, which allows natural
Generally.
gas to start flowing. You did mention the fact that parts of that gas field in Qatar are going to take
Oh, I
3,
think
4
it's
years
dumb to
maybe,
do that
to
because
get
you
mixed
waste
up
the
or to get fixed
yeah.
at this point. So
No
keep that in
additional
mind on
benefits.
this.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
a
looked
waste.
at basically a 1 month wide
Tax-free munis and
put calendar to
tax-deferred
the
accounts
downside. That
is
gives me
just fucking
downside
dumb.
exposure, but I know exactly what my downside risk
at least
is
you're
going
trying.
into this position. I went out to the April 17th monthly option, so 28 days to expiration,
Least affected
and bought
by
the
the
out of the
changes
money
in
260
interest
strike
rates,
put
at
below
least.
the current share price. It looks like it's going to open up about 287 here, so about 25 bucks
not
below the
bonds.
current share price. And then in the near term, March 27th, weekly options that expire in 7 days. We're going to
This
sell that
treasury
same
security.
260 put. So basically a
Not
3-week
bonds.
wide 260 put calendar to the downside.
Something
You're going to
about
pay
notes.
roughly about a
Long and
$3
low.
debit. That's going to be your risk, $300 per spread. But you can see
Short
here from
and
the risk
high.
profile, yeah, you want the stock to go down to at or near 260.
Shit.
But you've got a nice wide
What's the
range
difference between the
of
notes and the bills?
profitability here
Interest
between
rates
about
is
235
directly
on the
related to
downside and maybe
maturity,
290 on the
shorter the
upside
maturity,
to still be
lower the-
profitable on this type of
Yeah.
position. I think one of the keys when looking at these strategies, I'm only paying $3. There's
I
my
saw
risk.
the number
I can
13
maybe
and thought
make
that it was
$1,000 or more on
years.
this spread. because of those potential rolls.
I got that one right.
As we get closer to expiration on that short option over
That
the
was
next 7
just
days, I'll have that opportunity
visual,
or potential to roll
cognitive,
to the next weekly cycle, collect
jumping
credits.
to conclusion
That reduces risk. That
It's like
increases
what I do in
potential
chess. Doesn't make me
profitability on
bad
a
at
trade
it.
like this. So you have to start looking at that. But if you do get a move
Doesn't
down
make me bad
towards
as
that
it could be.
260 strike, you'll see this calendar start to expand into
Prohibited transaction
profitability
and
relatively quick. And if implied volatility levels rise, that'll also expand the price of this calendar. So an inexpensive way to get some downside exposure if you think it at least pulls back a little
providing
bit.
participants
Or
with multiple
consolidates.
All right, we shall see.
Hmm?
Shares right now indicating a higher open
Selling their
as
own
investors look to
property.
potentially extend
Sort of
the
plan.
record
Yeah, what the
recently.
heck?
Thank you, Tom. That's Tom White, co-host of Fast Market. Catch us later this afternoon.
Hiring a third party
Futures lower
provider.
this morning. S&P 500 on track for a fourth straight losing week. Thank you so
Investing
much for joining
plan
us today
assets and
on Morning
diversified.
Movers. I'm Diane
Okay,
King
this
Hall. Download the Schwab Network app.
Selling
It's
property
available in the
between
App
the
Store and tune in
plan and the
24/7 on
party. Interest
schwabnetwork.com.
including
Stay with us. You've
fiduciaries
got
is
Opening Bell
prohibited
with Nicole
transaction
Petalides
and
up next.
such as conflicts of interest. Yeah. Yeah, you're not supposed to mix the money, fools. Born. Is that you wear it?
Schwab Bank Investor Checking, the checking account built for investors. Named highest in client satisfaction
employer.
by J.D. Power for 7 years in a row. With Investor Checking,
Pension
you get
plan.
the award-winning features of our checking account.
We
plus
remember
cash
things.
management solutions, all designed for investors like you. With
That's a good feeling.
unlimited ATM fee rebates for cash withdrawals worldwide.
What is the
No
difference
overdraft
between an
fees
annual
and enhanced
budget
security
deficit
features to
and a
keep your money
national
safe. Also, because your investor checking account is linked to your Schwab One brokerage account, you can manage your checking and investing in one convenient location. Moving funds between your accounts is easy. Cash moved to your brokerage account is available in seconds. That means you can stop waiting and start investing in stocks, bonds, money market funds, and more.
They are
Get
technically
more
the
with
same
Schwab
thing.
Bank Investor Checking,
The deficit
checking
is-
account built for investors.
Oh, that's actually an incredible way. Yeah.
Welcome to Schwab Network, where real-time market coverage meets expert strategy.
From the opening bell to
I'd
the
imagine.
closing bell,
Yeah.
we've got you covered.
That was perfect right there.
Get inside the minds
Technical
of pro
analysts who
traders.
follow
point is
short
that they're getting
interest.
a higher rate of
Theory.
change in sales based on their guidance, but not the same rate of change on EPS.
Follow the
Technical
biggest
analysts
headlines,
who follow
live
short
analysis,
interest.
breaking news, and sharp
Thank
trade
God that
ideas
was not what I-
minute by minute.
With shows built for action, we break it all down in
They're
real
very
time
hard short
with speed,
interest as
accuracy, and precision.
people are gonna
I think
start
one of the most
buying
important
again.
things is you're making a play in a risk
Or it's a
way
buyback,
here
yeah.
going into earnings.
So that would be a further downside area to
Bullish
watch.
shorts must eventually buy the
Actionable
cover.
data.
That is a
Traders
great
and trusted
insight.
financial
Not a lot of
journalists
people know
streaming
about that.
live and on demand.
Schwab Network, streaming 24/7.
That's a great
anytime,
insight.
Anywhere, free. schwabnetwork.com.
Short, I think my short kings out there.
Last year,
Oh,
my
that's
dad had
gotta
a
be a
stroke,
thing now.
big shock.
Shout out to all my
Something
short
that I've only seen
kings
as force in
and
the
my
family.
ladies at short
Vulnerable.
interest.
Wait, that is
Yeah, we heard about that
Yes.
short interest
Now we're
theory,
in the car
right?
Together almost daily. I started to realize, what can I pick up from my dad?
It's gonna be a
He's been with
buyback.
Schwab for a long time. Jim, my financial consultant.
And if you got it, girls,
20 years ago.
hold.
Jim's really been there to answer any questions I ever have. Makes a
That's
huge
fine.
difference when you have someone that actually cares.
Stay connected to what moves markets. Download the Schwab Network app and stream
It's
live
that glow
coverage
up
wherever
season.
you are.
Now we're on the market. Took a minute. I got that IPO though. I am open to the public. Yeah, ain't nothing on there. I'm kidding. Alright. Once I start making these trades right, I think we'll start talking about that more.
Trading at
Series
Schwab
7
is
exam
powered by
I was
Ameritrade,
registered.
giving traders even more ways to sharpen their skills with tailored education. Get an
Nobody
expanding
wanted that.
library
You better
filled
go
with
back
new
to bed and
online
turn that
videos,
off.
Webcasts, articles, courses, and more. All crafted just for traders. And with guided
Computers be
learning paths
doing whatever
stacked
they
with
want now. That's
content
crazy.
curated to fit your unique goals. You can spend less time searching and more time learning.
Serious.
Trade
I was a
brilliantly
registered
with Schwab.
representative too. sell virtually all types. Yeah, actually, your securities. I believe the series. Yeah, you're like all securities, everything. Yeah, I think Dean's like he's just Dean, he's the Series 7 guru. Shout out, Dean.
Friday morning. Welcome to Opening Bell right here on Schwab Network. I'm so glad you're with me.
Yeah,
I'm
the
Nicole
broadest represented license allowing sale virtually all types of securities. Anything you want when it has to do with the market.
Here for the Dow, the S&P, we've been under some pressure, and of course we'll continue to follow.
Cool. Shout out, Dean, once again.
Crisis and how it's weighing on markets, where oil right now is at
Yeah, if you want to pass any of these security tests, look them up. All free on YouTube. Series 7 Guru. An incredible resource. Show him some love. And the man is very well off, knows what he's talking about, and he still puts it all out there.
Stock picks and tech, defense, energy. But right now we
Well,
are
I guess
seeing
that's
some
when
down
you're supposed
arrows.
to do
We're
it.
down
If you're
about
broke,
1/3 of 1%.
people
Intense,
would respect.
back
Yeah,
and
whatever.
forth
Nonetheless,
fighting
he's a
continues,
great
particularly
guy.
between Israel and Iran, but also strikes across the
What
Middle
is the
East and
value
the
of a
Arab Gulf
stock
states that are
currently
gaining
pays
frustration
$3
with Iran
dividend
right now. Stocks are to the downside. We have the S&P futures down 1/4 of
and has a
1% at
required return
66.42.
of 11
Nasdaq
and
futures down
expected
1/3 of
growth
1%
of
at 24,491.
IETs,
Dow Jones
okay.
Industrial Average futures down 111 points, and also those small caps are lower as well. Right now, oil and gold are mixed because oil is at 95.47 the barrel, down 67 cents. And we continue to watch Brent too, which I saw at 107 a short time ago. Gold 46.75 a troy ounce. The VIX at 24.65. That's up 2.5%. Right, so that volatility index, and you do have
Shit, dude, I don't know.
Bitcoin
What the
back
fuck?
above the 70,000 mark. Right now at
Something divided by-
70,450. We did get our news from the Fed this week. We'll continue to follow that. We have a lot of story stocks for you as well today,
What is
including
that? Profits
Microchip and
or
many
earnings
others.
divided by shares?
Start off here with Alex Coffey, co-host of Next Gen Investing. With what we're seeing here, the sell-off 4 weeks in a row, and for one of the indices we haven't seen that in a year, and for the other it's been since 2023.
Looks like
so
11,
it really just
so
shows we don't get 4 weeks of
16%.
straight selling so easily. What are your thoughts this morning?
Yeah, and I would also say,
Let's take
Nicole,
our
it really
hint. This is
hasn't
our daily
been
hint.
straight selling. We've
thought of that
gone
already.
down
Okay,
over
let's
that
see.
period of time, and each week has been lower, but it hasn't been without a fight from the bulls. And you can see it when you look at a candlestick chart of the S&P 500. There really isn't a tremendous amount of stacking red days, and when there is, there's usually a coinciding, 2 or 3 day rally to offset some of that down move. So while we have declined from about 7,000 in the S&P 500, peaking out at the end of January to where we are now, that 400-point decline over the last month and a half, 2 months, has been kind of like a crash in slow motion. If we could even put it into the realm of a crash, I would say it's sort of a minor correction here at this point. All that to be said, 1 month realized volatility. 1 month realized volatility, Nicole, is 12.3%, but
Okay,
VIX is near 25. So the actual fear in the market is way overstating the actual movement that we're seeing, and the sustainability of that really isn't going to be
we have the
forever.
current.
You're either going to see a tremendous pickup in the actual movement that we're seeing to justify the high level in the VIX, or the VIX is going to have to come down to meet kind of the actual movement of the market.
Yeah, and we talk about this sell-off, and we were making the point about the S&P 500. When you say, like, for example, Sam Stovall was on with us, and he said when it takes more than 40 days to drop 5%, he said you don't necessarily start to see corrections and bear markets. To your point, because yes, the weeks are passing, and yes, we have a down arrow, but we're not that far off. We're not down 50%. This is not the great financial crisis. Do you know what I mean? The Dow was at 50,000.
Damn it, I thought this was the
now,
fucking trap.
We're at whatever. So that's the point here. And we do
Oh, they
have
did
obviously
tell
some
Ogle.
pressure. And we've also seen reversals even in the middle of the day, even in the futures in the last few hours. So people need to stay nimble. That being said, let's talk about oil in particular, which really has been the driver of this market and the spread between West Texas and Brent.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'll actually use the oil discussion to kind of build on the point you were just making about the markets broadly. First off, to your point, the crude oil story continues to be the market's driver. The spread between Brent and WTI crude is really something to monitor, and it's upwards of $13 a barrel at this point. It's pretty tremendous. Normally that's in the $2 range if we're in more normal times. So it certainly indicates the uneven nature of the impact of what's going on. But if we look at what oil did when this conflict broke out, it went from the 60s up to 120 in a very short period of time. That was a market that was offside. It was not ready for that type of surprise. If you saw that happen in the equity market, you would have seen a lot more equity volatility. So I always use the phrase, Nicole, a hedged pot rarely boils. Well, the VIX being elevated and the lack of movement tells me there's a lot of hedging that has taken place, and it's really difficult for the market to actually live up to that fear when everybody's prepared
this much time on it. I don't want to get it wrong.
And here's the other thing. I think you make a great point. And yesterday, several of our guests made the point that the Fed is not really looking at the fact that it's not oil that's the inflationary issue. That's one thing. But that the escalation in oil, the rise in inflation, then hits the economy, which then hits jobs, which then slows the economy. And that's what Jay Powell should have been talking more about, and maybe even cutting or alluding to a cut sooner. It's also quad witch today, triple witch, whatever you want to call it. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, the triple witch component of the quad witching is really the interesting piece. That'll happen, in the next 30 minutes or so. Basically, futures, index options, and futures index options are all going to converge to one point, frees up a ton of capital, high volume days,
Jesus, I just
sometimes volatile days, but we already have volatility in this market. It's not going to be the cause of the volatility in my mind, but something to be aware of. I think your points you made around how the Fed has a lot to digest right now.
Divided by R minus T.
But I don't know what they say. I mean, risks in all directions right now, it seems.
Yeah, because we had to get the next
series. This Friday morning. We'll stay nimble, and I'll see you later. All right, looking down about 1/3 of 1% for stocks here. And we bring in senior markets correspondent Kevin Green as we look at Super Micro. It's been tanking about 25% or so. Let's see where it is now. Kevin Green has all the details on Super Micro.
At least for me.
Yeah, we're seeing it down, let's say around 25-26% here, Nicole. We are getting, obviously, reports around the fact that actually 3 individuals related to the company have been charged, including one of the co-founders here, and this is because of the allegation of smuggling around $2.5 billion worth of U.S. AI tech, or these NVIDIA chips, to China. Now, they actually used several different areas in order to get it to China, from Taiwan and Southeast Asia into the China routing corridors here. Now, they also repackaged and unmarked some of these boxes to bypass some of the controls, and this is really concentrated in 2025. So there has been allegations of this for a while now. It seems like the DOJ now has enough evidence in order to support these allegations, and obviously we will probably see this proceed in court. Now, we are seeing shares down. The company itself is actually not charged in this case. It's just the individuals that were related to this particular matter, but obviously there's going to be reputational as well as brand risk, and that's why we are seeing the shares down today. And the company did actually take some proactive actions and actually work with the DOJ in order to complete their investigation as well. So you are seeing shares to the downside. Dell actually catching a little bit of a bid here this morning, as well as yesterday before this report hit the tape.
I'm pretty sure you gotta let them know, because you're the professional.
Maybe Dell could get some of the business here in the future due to, once again, the reputational risk that you were seeing with Supermicro.
Yeah, understood. All right, so we'll continue to follow that story. I mean, that's a big move to the downside, 26% this morning.
I think that's a stake thing.
And so we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, nice move for FedEx, right?
It opens a joint account,
Yeah, we're seeing the shares up over 7%. It was actually able to hold after the conference call here. This is after the company beat both on the top and bottom line for the quarter that they reported. Revenue came in at $24 billion. Street was looking for around $23.4 billion, and the adjusted earnings per share came in at $5.25. Street was looking for $4.09. The company also raised their fiscal year guide as well. They're looking for revenue growth between 6 and 6.5%. an EPS between $19.30 and $20.10. The company continues to see margin improvements because of expense measures. They are looking at around $1 billion worth of cost savings, as well as reducing jobs.
That's
it appears that they are going to reduce around 5,000 jobs over the next year and also consolidate their network. Now, obviously, there's some headwinds when it comes to the geopolitical risk and how it could impact their business, especially when you're looking at input costs for diesel as well as other fuels here. But the company does provide a surcharge for their customers to offset some of these spikes in fuel oil. And they do believe that they are going to be, for the most part, well insulated from this matter. Let's see if that actually does reign true.
Dividends are just income,
mentioned
right?
the fact that they only have around 8% of their portfolio or revenue portfolio exposed to the Middle East, and so even if they do see a drawdown in volume, it could be minimal. And they did indicate that they factored that into their guidance moving forward. So a really good report here.
The market value of a security increases, but you don't realize.
$400 level would be a key
you only
area of
realize it
resistance
when you
for
sell
the
it.
stock, and the fundamental
Interest rate is received from a
Yeah, and you know, all of
holding.
these truckers, shippers, airlines, anything related to oil run some
That's
sort of
income.
risk now, right? We were talking
Normal
a little bit
income,
about
right? It's not
Carnival Cruise
capital
Lines
gain.
yesterday being the one of
Dividends
the cruise
are
lines
received
that
from a
actually does not,
sales
you know, purchase oil in
proceeds.
advance. They
That's
sort
what
of
it is.
do
Sales
it in a different way
proceeds.
to manage their oil. So when it's lower, they do better. When it's higher,
Better
it puts a little
safe and
pressure on
sorry.
Carnival Cruise. I saw Citi cutting price targets on many of the airlines today. Also American, United, and Southwest. But you did have the Energy Secretary, and they've been talking about the unsanctioned oil now, those 140 barrels, you know, that are floating the Iran. Maybe they'll get to those. We've talked about more strategic petroleum reserves being released. And there's even talk that the whole thing wraps up sooner than folks even think.
There's too much money
you know,
out there,
all of these things,
not
I
enough
think, play a
buying.
part into our market decisions.
So debt wouldn't
Yeah, I would agree
really
with
be a
you. The
thing.
industrial stocks have definitely gotten hit
So
over the last
bonds?
week and a half, 2 weeks, because of the perceived risk when it comes to rising fuel costs. I think there's also this concern of a global economic slowdown, which could also then impact their volume in general. So you are seeing those shares kind of, those industries kind of move to the downside. I think the airlines are going to be interesting today, though, Nicole, because obviously
Real
they sold
estate,
off. But if
too.
you actually look at yesterday's price action, a lot of them are actually ended in the green, or actually had some pretty decent green candles. So some buyers are stepping in and trying to buy the dip on those airline companies. Let's see if that's going to actually be a rewarding trade over the next couple of weeks if tensions do calm down here.
Yeah, and look, to your
Dang,
point,
it's
there is
A or
green.
D.
And even with the Carnival story I was doing, and the story I was doing,
Real
was that there
estate.
was upside potential. You know, and that even though they were going to have to pay more for oil, that would be offset by some of the upside potential. And we've seen some of that when it comes to bookings and travel, and people are spending particularly in the upper end of the K-shaped economy, right? I mean, that's who's really making a lot of the bookings, particularly for the airlines. Kevin Green, great to see you. Thank you so much. Coming up, folks, stand by because we're going to take a quick break, but we have to get you ready for the trading day. Michael Landsberg from Landsberg Bennett Private Wealth Management standing right next to me. We're going to have a great conversation. Opening bell. We'll be right back.
That's just the parent company. Shit. I knew that one. Fuck. I'm getting lazy. I gotta take a break and smoke. I'm getting lazy. Can't, like it happened here, it can't happen during the test. 3 more questions, full focus. What is the primary advantage of stock? Non-QA. What is the primary advantage of cumulative preferred stock?
This is Fast Market, built for traders who want more than just headlines.
Accumulated preferred
trade
stock
ideas
accumulates
with structure,
any
risk
unpaid
management, and a
dividends
focus on
as
execution.
dividends.
From options to earnings to
Arrears?
volatility plays. We bring decades of trading experience to every segment.
With real-time insight
I'll
across
have to look that
products
word.
and
What?
sectors, we deliver what active traders need to stay ahead. Fast Market weekdays at noon Eastern, live on Schwab Network at schwabnetwork.com.
Arrears, their ugly head, so arrears comes up. Wow.
And I'm his mom.
Sometimes, you
Comment on that if you hear me.
Same
What's
goes for
arrear
where you
mean?
invest. Level up and invest smarter with Schwab.
Real-time market moves, earnings breakdowns,
Which of the
and
following
trade-ready
traditional
insights.
higher
Follow me
low
on X
distributions would be
at
subject
_Vardis and
to the
connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram for more.
Welcome back to Opening Bell. We're getting you ready for the trading day. Michael Landsberg, Chief Investment Officer at Landsberg Bennett Private Wealth Management, is with me right now.
I saw this one
people
for
are
sure,
sort of
but
trying to
was it
see if they
B?
feel more bullish because we're not that far off the highs, or more bearish and worried because they don't know what's happening with the
Yeah,
Strait
you're
of
not
Hormuz.
supposed to
Where do
be
you fall on
doing
the line
anything
here?
for.
I think that's a good point. I think a lot of the people in the market aren't really taking the concept. This may last a lot longer than people think. And I think that's my concern, is how we positioned it. Is I'd like to be wrong and this thing ends quickly, but I'd rather play it safe and make sure I got some money set
Putting
aside.
death in there is kind of wild.
When this first started.
If I'm dead,
people are kind of positioning.
I don't think I'm worried about exemptions. That's a wild statement.
So you took some money off the table when it first started. That's
Money
about 3
market
weeks ago.
mutual funds. Okay, last one I said,
What did you
and
sell
then we get
when you say I took some money off the table? Did you just sell
Money
S&P,
market
or did you sell things that were sort of on the upper end and doing particularly well?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So what ended up happening was we rebalanced twice a year. So we had already trimmed our allocations, luckily to a lot of the Mag 7 names. They'd done really well in 25. So we took that down. But we also looked and said, where do we want to own? And we've always been big fans of owning diversified portfolios. And so we added to some gold, some oil positions. We also bought a little bit of a short position in the S&P just to kind of, as
There
opposed
we
to taking a
go.
lot more
Cool.
off the table. I'd rather
Alright.
buy a short. I don't have to
Let's
generate a lot of
decompress a
capital
little
gains for
bit.
clients.
We
I can
go
sit
too
in that
long
for,
and start
a week
making
or 2 or a
mistakes
month,
and getting
or how
lazy.
long this lasts, and then
We're
be able to
lazy
go
enough
back
as it is
to
already.
lower beta names.
So lower beta names.
Since
Okay,
we're taking a break,
that's the difference
what are
here.
y'all looking at? What are you watching on the market right now?
Now often referred to as value
Anything
plays.
moving? Oh,
Tech overall,
I forget how early it is. Yeah, we wake up early here. It's about a little under 15 minutes until the grown-ups start screaming for the bell.
I mean, what are your thoughts on
One of the
tech
funniest
and Mag
things.
7 and Nvidia?
Children do not get excited for recess as much as these adults do for the market.
We're at 5%, not the
I mean, I get
7.5%
excited
the
too.
S&P is. So we're
Just nobody
chronically
could
underweight.
see
We
it.
have been for a
But,
while.
well, you guys
My
can
belief
now.
is, if I look at kind of where they are, the Mag 7 used to trade at triple the earnings growth of the 493, and then it was double. And now they're about the same. So if I look at the other 493, the earnings growth rate's the same, but they're still trading at a 40% premium to the other 493, even after this kind of dislocation. My concern with a lot of people is, hey, the market's gone down, we want to buy more of the Mag 7. I'm like, you already own the Mag 7. Let's look elsewhere.
Drop it in the chat. Let me know what I should be looking up if you know something I don't.
Places to get diversification, and you're getting
friends are for
the growth
sharing.
rate that the Mag 7 have, but
We
you're not
don't like
paying the
gatekeepers out here.
And you're looking at commodities and saying,
Unless you have the
folks
key,
just
then
don't
I guess,
have
yeah,
enough
that's
meaningful allocation.
It's only
And
nice
not
if it's
just
happening to you.
gold, right? I mean, you're looking at gold, silver, oil, food commodities. Tell us a little bit about that. And what you
Everything's
think
sitting
should be
pretty
happening
good. We
there.
got some contracts out there. We got 12 open call contracts, and they're all sitting pretty good. Closing today or expiring today. And they all, I don't see anybody yet.
Food prices
Anybody actually calling these or executing them? We're like in 40 cents out on one, and then a full $1.10 on the other one. It'll be a crazy day if those actually get called up. But nonetheless, even then, we'd be all right doing that because we make money. We'd flip that real quick. So yeah, it's kind of nice, sitting pretty. It's good on this side. I'd like to hear your side.
Slowly, gradually get up by the end
Little
of the year. We think
transparency
you might see a 3%
on my end. You don't have to share if you don't want to.
Which
You
is
just
April
met me.
10th reporting on CPI, up from 2.4 in February.
But nonetheless,
Absolutely. And
this
I think that's going to be a
is
huge driver. I think
this is
that's going
grandma's
to also put
account
us
too.
a damper on
She
the
actually,
amount of rate cuts we
as
get.
I'm
I think we don't get
studying
any
for
now.
the Series 65, my grandma loves me and trusts me, and she's been kind enough to let me practice my fiduciary, you know, responsibilities and all that. So that's and she's been happy so far, which is cool.
So you're in the maybe.
I haven't passed or anything yet, so I'm not, you know, charging my grandma. Obviously, it's just her looks and all that. And even if I did, I would never charge her. You know, I love her. I don't even deserve her. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's gonna get there.
I had guests that came on and said, you know, you're looking at the oil inflation, but then you're not
Sorry,
looking
I
at how it
digressed a
affects
little
the
bit,
economy,
but
slows the economy, slows
I was
jobs, and that they
focusing.
should cut because of that.
Test taking so much. I like to get back to being a normal person.
To everybody that's there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Or
the problem is
relative terms.
What's interesting is your allocation in these commodities. You talked about reducing your NVIDIA allocation.
I digress. Let's get to
5%, but you still want about 20% in commodities. Right?
Alternatives.
And I'll let
so that could be
you
commodities,
guys
it could be
listen as
oil,
well
it could
as
be
me
managed futures, it could be
to
long
Schwab.
short. That liquid.
Where do you have the heaviest allocation?
Let me know too if you like Schwab or if you like what is it, Yahoo Finance. There's other streams that we can always pull up too. It's just Schwab always. They're always running it, and the ads are even finance based.
So we're at 60-40, but let's say we are 40%.
Just letting you know how we run it over
20%
her.
of that, you know, we took half that bond money, realizing bonds weren't going to perform, and added it to all those other, you know, liquid alternatives that we can get exposure to, generate more return than bonds. Because the fear with bonds, obviously, it's not going to compete with inflation.
Whatever happened to the dividend aristocrats and the good old
They're
companies
still there.
that have been
They're
around
still there.
50 years, 100 years? Do you still look at those?
Absolutely.
Like what?
They're still
like
there.
What are some of your good
That's why they're
old-time
called
favorites?
that, because they don't go
Nextera is a
anywhere.
favorite of mine. So Nextera is a local hometown. I live in Florida. Phenomenal story. 31 years of dividend growth, but also it's a huge player.
But now, like
utility in a
Nvidia,
state where
well,
everybody's
you
moving.
actually, to
I mean,
even get
Florida,
in
we
there,
have
you have to
people in
be
the sticks
going for
that
like
come down to Florida now, especially
years. Yeah, so
New York.
even the Nvidia and
the other thing
Amazon
that's
and all
interesting
them, they
about-
still
Don't
got
worry,
ways to go.
Hochul's begging for them to
That's
come back.
wild.
But they're staying down there because it's beautiful.
There's like dividend, there's like a class of stock where these giants can't even get in because time. Sometimes you can't, you can have all the money in the world, but there's some things that time can only get you. That's value.
So you get kind of old school utility with new school AI.
That's only old money
it's not
can
that frontline chip story, which I think
throw their nose up
everybody
at you
over-owns
about.
the
I could be a young buck with a billy and be like, no, youngster, go wait.
Do you like those? I mean, we talked
Come
about
back when you have
what's going
grandchildren.
on and, how about industrials?
Industrials, and again, depending on the industrials.
And nonetheless,
I like a
I'm
name like
going
GE
to.
Vernova.
It's just going to be.
It's a name that, again, a little bit of that adjunct play on.
Probably make multiple millions in that time and still
Power's
can't
a
let me
problem.
in.
Making enough power is going to be a problem, and I think that's
Buy
important
the
for people
island
to
that you
own.
guys meet
That's a name
on.
that we've owned for a while. One of our long-standing under the radar names is
I'd be
Comfort
petty if a
Systems.
billionaire.
The ticker
I'd be such a
STIX,
petty
FIX.
billionaire.
Oh.
They do HVAC for data centers. So again, it's a way to play this
Why
AI
not, you know?
in the frenzy, but you're buying things that aren't in the same sector. My
I think there's a
fear has
positive
been,
petty
and you see
too.
that with tech,
There's such a
Max 7
negative
peaked
stigma
basically
on
October
being petty.
31 of last year.
I think there's a
It's done
positive
nothing
aspect in
since
there
it's
somewhere.
actually down. But you get something like Comfort Systems, they're in the business
Definitely
of
holding people
providing
accountable.
cooling to
Look
the
at
data
that.
centers.
Nice chart too. And GE Vernova, just like this chart,
I'd be a
Comfort
super
Systems running
accountant.
up there, nice chart. GE Vernova's run up too. And yesterday we had Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi speaking with the U.S. and they actually made a deal. It was a $40 billion deal to build nuclear facilities here. GE Vernova and Hitachi made this joint venture to build these nuclear facilities, gas facilities. So GE Vernova is part of that, and 1 year up 175%. It's great to see you, Michael. Okay. Thank you so much, Michael Landsberg.
As a
Landsberg
race,
Bennett
the
Private
humans,
Wealth
we
Management.
really got to get away from
All right, a
oil.
quick break. We'll get you ready for the countdown to the start of trading
is
here on this Friday. Opening bell. We'll be right
Way
back.
too much like foundational to just everything. And people just think about cars and gas, but yeah, it's like everything. Like I still don't understand why
market.
We're just worried about
Morning
switching
Trade
cars
Live
over. It
breaks
should
down
be
the macro
everything on the
moves
electrical
driving
grid.
the price action, from Fed policy to global growth.
And I tried to look up
to
the
inflation
science, but
prints and
I still don't
geopolitical
understand why we can't
fast,
control
and always
lightning
live
yet.
From Wall Street to your screen.
That'd
Morning
be
Trade
so
Live,
crazy.
where the markets meet the macro.
We
Weekdays
could-
at 10
I mean,
a.m.
we could
Eastern
make like
on
lightning and then put like a little. We could do the OG thing and get like a little key on the during the storm. It's the same thing. We direct a certain bolt and then it's just getting that raw, containing that incredible amount of raw power. That would be insane. But even getting like a fraction of it, right? You would fill up batteries like that. I don't know.
Best of all,
I'd invest in that.
directly to an education coach. It's
That would be a very interesting private placement slash venture capitalist fund deal.
And start learning today.
I wonder what they would. It's not a mutual fund. They call it something else. Oh no, it's not a mutual. Oh no, it's a mutual fund. Yeah.
I'm Marley
That's where
Caden,
they pull
live
all the
from
big money
Chicago.
and then they
We're
make big
tracking
things
market
happen. Yeah,
movers,
that would be up
earnings
there.
reactions, and what traders are watching next.
I know what I would
Stream
name
Schwab
it.
Network,
Lightning in a
live
bottle.
at schwabnetwork.com.
And sell that shit. Yeah.
Trading at Schwab is powered by Ameritrade, giving traders even more ways to sharpen their
Let's
skills
check out
with
mine.
tailored
Where
education.
am I sitting?
Get an expanding
pretty chill.
library filled with new online videos,
Mine, on the other
webcasts,
hand, is
articles,
far
courses, and more.
less.
All crafted just for traders. And with guided learning paths, stacked with
I'm
content
new to the
curated
game.
to fit your unique goals. You can spend
Grandma
less time
was a hard
searching
worker. I
and
try
more
to work
time
smart.
building.
Hasn't
Trade
been
brilliantly
working out yet.
with Schwab.
But that's what we're doing up this early. We're investing in ourselves. We're investing in each other.
It's Friday, and we are counting
We'll
you
get
down
there, we'll
to the
get there.
start of trading. But it's 4 weeks in a row of selling for the Dow, the Nasdaq, and the S&P.
5
But
minutes.
we've had a lot of back and
5
forth
minutes.
action. It is quad witch as well, and a lot to watch here on Wall Street. This is oil's at
I have
95.97 the
two,
barrel for West Texas. Sam Bottas is here, joining me with
what's
some
it
of the very
called?
latest
Options
and
open
what
right
she's
now. I have
watching.
one
Good morning,
call.
Sam.
As you
And
say,
I have
Nicole,
one,
quad witching
put.
today, so
I usually
keep an eye
don't
on
do
some of that
puts,
volatility
but
because the
I wanted
markets
a
had
discount
already
on
been
this,
bouncing around
this
and
specific started
really bumpy ahead
tomorrow,
of this
and
anyway.
it's,
I mean,
weekly
particularly if you look at the
dividend.
session yesterday, we did manage
So
to
I'm
come off
not
those
only
lows.
where I want
a lot
these
of those
dividends, but I
headlines
want it
around
on a
what
discount
Netanyahu
too,
was saying.
because I'm cheap.
But we are getting up and running on a
So we'll see,
slightly softer
and
note
that-
this morning.
that
So
ends
we
today
are,
too.
of course, looking at back-to-back losses now.
Yeah, if they
looking to
just
build
want to
on
get
that
rid of it,
today.
yeah, I'll take
Again,
it.
and then,
I'll
of
get it
course,
for a
heading for our
$100
fourth
discount,
week of
and then
losses, as of
I'll
course,
just sit
we
on
are
it too.
continuing
That's extra.
to watch this jostling
extra
between
shares.
stocks and oil with, as you mentioned, oil
Dividend
at
games,
$96
that's
a barrel this
that's
morning
that's
for
the name of the
WTI.
game.
Brent
Shares.
is at 108. We continue to watch that
And
spread
then we try
as
to
well
do the extra income
WTI
with the
and Brent
options
too, Nicole. I think that's really been a big
contracts, yeah.
story for some of our international
Pretty cool.
friends as well. Speaking
Ownership,
of that, obviously you had Asia
ownership,
wrapping
and
up
then leveraging
with
it.
a relatively quiet session compared to some of the big moves we've seen in recent weeks. Europe currently still trading. We're just seeing some marginal gains out there at the moment, some modest
3
gains
minutes.
off the back of actually hitting the lowest point
we were,
for
yeah, we
the
were
year. A
almost
lot of attention on the gilts
exactly
market right now.
5:30 on
As
the
we
dot.
look at our 10-year here right now at 432, there's been
That's
a big
good.
jump very
Discipline.
much in global bond yields around the world, really. And of course, we did see the 10-year over in the UK market actually hitting the highest point in 2008. So that's a real repricing of rates, obviously backing out some of that easing, pricing in of rate hikes potentially in other markets. Not as much here, of course, Nicole, but we continue to track these lines around oil. I mean, the Wall Street Journal out with a piece today about the Saudis seeing oil go to $180 if this energy shock continues and persists throughout the course of April. We continue to see blows to energy infrastructure. That's really the big story. I know KG's been writing a lot about that. You've got LNG, of course, in the spotlight. Reuters
KG,
out with a really
Kevin
interesting
Durant.
piece yesterday, Nicole. Don't know if you caught it. 17% of Qatar's LNG capacity knocked out, but the
Kevin
repairs
Durant.
could potentially take 3 to 5 years. So everyone's
Kevin
talking about the
Garnett.
duration at the
Oh,
moment,
my
as to
mama
how
gets
long
so
this
mad
stuff
at me,
could
she
come back
heard me.
online. And I think that's really telling. So that was really interesting.
Celtics
Obviously, we
fan.
continue to track these tech headlines. What a fascinating story about Supermicro. macro. I mean, if you dig into some of the details of that, about how they were, changing out the labels and things like that, hair dryers involved in boxes, but that, of course, smuggling charge we are watching as well. And then, of course, on the macro front, we've had Chris Waller out this morning talking, so we continue to keep an eye on some of that Fed speak as well.
Yeah, and I did catch a story on Qatar and everything that was going on with LNG and the 17% outage. I will tell you also with Supermicro, I'll add that Bernstein's out and saying that Supermicro has serious credibility issues after the indictments, and also now wondering whether or not NVIDIA might feel the need to further distance itself from Supermicro, which is down about 26% this morning, to your point, Sam.
Yeah.
You also are watching XPeng.
Yeah, XPeng turning its first quarterly profit, actually, in its latest report card, Nicole. So thanks to record sales and good margins. So net profit, $55 million, revenue jumping 38% year over year. It sold more than 116,000 vehicles in the quarter. Gross margins improving 21% compared to 14% the previous years. Guiding, though, for fewer sales in Q1 of 61 to 66,000 cars. This is typically a slower season for car sales over in China because, of course, the Lunar New Year holiday, but that is compared, of course, to what is typically a busy time for car sales in Q4 over in China. And so perhaps some of that is being priced in at the moment, but it is the latest EV maker over in China to turn a profit. We were just talking about NIO last week, managing to hit that milestone as well. Li Auto had already managed to do that, but now you've got a case of all three emerging brands turning a profit. The story with XPeng is that it does sell cars out of China. It's focused on international expansion. It's described as going full Tesla as well because it's making this foray into robo-taxis and humanoids, so something to watch as well with XPeng.
All right, Sam Vanas, thank you. You can catch her at 10 o'clock. Also, Amazon, a smartphone comeback. A lot of news this morning. Opening bell. Stocks on Wall Street are to the downside. The Dow Jones Industrial Average right now down about 107 points, 45,940, losing 0.2%. Same for the S&P 500, down about 0.25% there at 65.89. That is the current level here. Small caps just fractionally higher as we're ticking off here. By the way, 432 on the 10-year bond deal. These are the highest levels we have seen in some time. That's certainly worth noting. And the tech-heavy NASDAQ down about 0.4%. Of course, FedEx is leading the way after its quarterly reports, and good news there. It's up about 6% on the downside here. Some of the names that we've hit were Supermicro, which is down about 27%. ServiceNow, Workday, Datadog, Intuit, AppLovin, CrowdStrike. We'll be covering some of these as well. But that is the big picture and where we start and kick off here on Wall Street. Some of these mega cap tech names, you see a lot of down arrows. The worst of the bunch there, down 1.5%, is Amazon, also announcing and eyeing a smartphone comeback. So we'll have to find out more about those details. In the meantime, with many details on many stories, including ARM getting an upgrade. That's Diane King Hall. She's joining me right now. HSBC out speaking about ARM. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you and happy Friday, Nicole. Yeah, ARM flexing its AI muscle this morning with a upgrade, a double upgrade, in fact, from HSBC, upgrading it to a buy from reduced, nearly doubling its price target to 205 from here. They say that investors are underestimating ARM's shift away from smartphones towards AI-driven data centers. We know that's where a lot of money flows are going now, and it says the market is underappreciating ARM's positioning within this space. All major hyperscalers, it says, HSBC says, are now using ARM-based server CPUs, moving to newer designs that could double royalty revenue per chip. That means stronger monetization, right? As AI infrastructure spending just continues to ramp, right? It bodes well for ARM. From the view of HSBC, the bottom line is ARM may no longer just be a mobile story. It's shifting and increasingly becoming a core player in the AI build-out. You can see that, in fact, in the reaction in the market today. The market likes this move, and if you look at the year-to-date move, it has outperformed the S&P 500 year-to-date, Nicole.
All right. right. And also, we're taking a look at Chipotle, an upgrade there, outperform at Mizuho.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this one because we know that the fast casual has been a challenge landscape for some time. There's questions about can the consumer continue to afford the burrito bowl, but today you have someone on the sell side upping their view on Chipotle. It's Mizuho upping it to outperform. They've listed the price target to 40. Shares are responding in kind today with a gain. Now, this stock has underperformed the S&P 500 year to date, but Mizuho says sales trends are improving and margins finally coming back into focus now. They do see first quarter same sales coming in flat, but that's better than other estimates ahead of street consensus views here. Momentum, they think, is building as the quarter progresses. They like the marketing. They like the value offerings that Chipotle has. They like the menu innovation. They say those are key drivers for Chipotle. Also, you can't ignore that there are easier comps, in which they point out, Mizuho points out that is, when you look at it on a year-over-year basis, it had a really tough year last year. So there is the potential to move ahead from here. So they see upside in Q2, both comps and traffic. Again, it's about the marketing, the promotion, the value that Chipotle is offering, and they think there will be a sales acceleration throughout the balance of this year, Nicole.
All right. And, I was just looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is now having its worst month since 2002. It's up 10 months in a row. It was the only index that actually had that consecutive gains, but it's down about 6%. And as I'm looking at the movers on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, Salesforce, Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Apple. I mean, you get my vibe here.
Yes.
IBM. A lot of tech weighing down on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Of course, it's 30, not 500 like the S&P 500, which is a better gauge. But I still love to look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, another big picture story is energy, and you have some stories here.
A couple of energy moves here. HSBC turning more bullish on Chevron. And this is a comparison story. They like Chevron over ExxonMobil here. They're upgrading Chevron to a buy. They're lifting their price target to 215. For this company, they think there's a powerful setup as oil prices surge. I know oil has been taking a step back today, but oil prices remain elevated. What are we sitting at? 96 or just above $96 a barrel on West Texas Intermediate. Brent crude still elevated. They think Chevron stands out versus Exxon because of much lower exposure to the Middle East. They think that's a key advantage as geopolitical risks continue to rise. We've been watching the landscape there, and they think Chevron offers greater earnings sensitivity to higher crude prices, meaning they could benefit more if oil stays elevated compared to Exxon. They also point to a valuation discount, arguing that the stock does not fully reflect improving cash flow and earnings potential from here. In terms of market reaction today, we are seeing shares of Chevron move higher by just shy of 1%, Nicole.
And the best performer in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as I was combing through those, and you were talking about that, I see it's followed by Verizon and Procter & Gamble. Okay, Diane King Hall, great to see you. I mean, it's worth noting the move that we've seen. Brent, for example, is up more than 50% in the 1 month here. So we'll continue to follow all of that. Coming up, folks, we're going to make the case for some international investing. Are you in some international stocks? Our next guest really wants to take a look at why some of those names really could outperform. Make sure you're diversified. Also looking at semiconductors, energy, defense, opening bell. We'll be right back.
While others recap the news, I help you read between the lines from what's moving markets to what's next with sharp takes and market know-how. Follow me on all social media platforms at Diane King Hall and connect with me on LinkedIn for more.
Pop.
Hey, Andrew.
Last year, my dad had a stroke. Big shock to see this person that I've always seen as a force in our family be vulnerable.
Wait, had a stroke?
Yes. Now we're in the car together almost daily. I started to realize, what can I pick up from my dad? He's been with Schwab for a long time.
Jim's my financial consultant. I probably met 20 years ago.
Jim's really been there to answer any questions I ever have. Makes a huge difference when you have someone that actually cares.
Live insights, actionable data, and market-moving analysis. Schwab Network connects the headlines to the why in real time. Watch free 24/7 at schwabnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Opening Bell. Well, right now the Dow's down 120. The S&P 500 is down almost 0.5%. So you are seeing some pressure on the markets. I want to get a big picture, maybe some investing ideas. Arup Datta is with us, head of global quantitative equity at McKinsey Investments. So glad you're with us because I know you have an international look too. We've had a recent pullback in stocks. I was just saying how stocks are down 4 weeks in a row for the major averages. Is this an opportunity or does this worry you greatly?
Nice to be with you, Nicole. I always think it's an opportunity, as you may have seen from research, that when opportunities like this, when wars happen and things like that happen, markets go down and usually is a good buying opportunity. So I believe it's a good buying opportunity. I'd also say, Nicole, that I prefer more international markets over the US. Some of it has already played out in the last 14, 15 months, where as you may know, US has done well, but has lagged many international markets. And so I still believe that it's an opportunity to buy in all markets. I would say the opportunity outside the US, EM, international, also in US small caps are still pretty large, though not as large as it was 12, 15 months back, because some of them have outperformed the US since then.
Yeah, and look, we've seen some international outperforming the U.S. How have you changed your allocation to international? Let's say in the last few weeks, 6 months, have you upped your international investment, lowered it? What percentage?
So we are always all-weather core manager. That's what we employ in our investment decision making. So we are always about stock picking, Nicole. So I would say what we have done versus, so we don't really allocate international versus US in terms of the portfolios we manage, but we find the best stocks internationally or in the US or in emerging markets. So no, we haven't raised that, but that's an allocation decision because I've been a long time, 34 years stock veteran, so I focus more on the stock side. But I would say what we have emphasized more is value in our process, especially in the US since last summer. Because to me, that was one of the largest value opportunity I've seen in my now 4th decade in the business. And so I can tell you in our US decision making, as we have been picking stocks since last summer, we have been employing a little bit more value in our process than we normally do. And that's been nicely playing out as the value opportunity, which was really huge, is still big, but not as huge as it used to be.
So important to be a stock picker, particularly right now where you see some great value. Wars and higher oil and things like that can push stocks down. But then when you look historically, we go back to new highs over time. So you're using this opportunity. I want to get to small caps. I know that's an area you like, but you have some names that you brought to us today. How about Teradyne? Where do you think this is headed and why?
I mean, Teradyne is in the sweet spot of the semiconductors, as you may know, Nicole. I think the semiconductor space, which was largely a cyclical space for many, many decades, is now being considered more of a secular growth space, given all the capital expenditure that the M7 names are doing. And the software area, which was largely a secular growth story, is being put to question because of all the AI related and how it will impact their business. So Teradyne is in that nice semiconductor space. It has done very well for us, and we continue to hold the stock. And as we do in every stock, we look at growth, value, and quality characteristics. Teradyne is slightly expensive given the stock move. However, the reason we own it, and large amounts of it, is because of its growth and quality characteristics. There have been tremendous advances in techniques and machine learning and computing power in the last 5-7 years, the most exciting times to be a quantitative manager. And one of the models we have deployed in the last many years is a machine learning model which predicts revenue earnings for companies. Our model has been predicting better outcomes for Teradyne. That's one of the reasons we own it. It has had strong growth. And on the quality front, we have also added quite a few new ways to look at quality of a company compared to a decade or two back. Things like, are employees happy where they are? Also, we look at beta volatility predictions and look for the nice mix of that. So for all of those reasons, even though Teradyne's worked out very nicely for us, we continue to own a full position in Teradyne today.
I'm looking at Ovintiv, a name that we don't follow as closely, but I just pulled up a 3-year chart. It is at a multi-year high today. As it moves higher, it's an incredible chart of 35% in 1 year, but even the 3-year chart shows the multi-year high here that it's hitting right now in the world of nat gas. No surprise there that it's a winner, right? And you like this one, still more upside potential.
Yes, absolutely. I know the stock price is sort of a one-way up, especially given what's going on in the Middle East in the last few weeks. But actually, we still find a lot of value in Ovintiv. I did not mention value much when I talked about Teradyne. That's more a growth quality hold for us. In Ovintiv's case, value, it has strong value support because we always look at valuation versus its peers. Yes, all of the energy stocks have re-rated up given where the oil prices are today. But compared to its peers, it still looks very cheap on many metrics like book value, like cash flow, and things like that. So that's one reason we hold it. And just as I made a case during Teradyne's case, even here a machine learning model has good predictions for Ovintiv in terms of where its revenue earnings should be compared to where the street estimates are. Also, it has strong free cash flow margins. So this is a stock we own on value, growth, and quality, all the three bases.
Yeah, do you have other energy and nat gas and utilities that you like? Is that an area that you've been investing a lot in light of the, not only the war, but also just what we've been seeing, how we need energy and power for data centers? Is that an area that you've sort of put more money to work recently?
Get approved, though,
yes, we have. I mean, we are a quant, so we have a diversified portfolio, but we have also been adding to names like Devon Energy for sure.
Okay. Oh, Devon Energy. How about Innovative Solutions? Where does that fit in?
That's, I know you like to talk about big cap names. This is a small cap story for us. Has been a great performer for us. It's in the aerospace area. Again, what's going on in the Middle East and all, there's a lot of demand for aerospace and defense. And that's a stock we own. It's slightly expensive again, just like Teradyne, but we have very strong growth and quality support for that stock. The ticker is ISSC, as you know. And even here, a machine learning model predicts better outcome. We are proven right because it blew out its revenue earnings expectations a few weeks back when it reported. They have a big research spend. We look for those things in terms of which companies can be more innovative in the future, and they're spending a lot towards R&D. So those comprise our growth metrics for innovative solutions. Also on the quality camp, we look at things like happy employees. We think they have happy employees. So for those reasons, we own this stock. It's been a good winner for us, but we continue to hold this stock.
All right, Arup Datta, great to see you, Mackenzie Investments. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
As assets under
Coming
management.
Up, the key levels to watch. Kevin Green's all over it, watching tick by tick on this Friday morning. We'll be right back. Quick break. Opening bell.
Cool. Blue sky laws are regulated by.
Sometimes, you could have done better. Same goes for where you invest.
I have no fucking idea. We'll use the hint on that one.
I'm Jenny Horn.
We go
beyond the headlines,
I gotta use those
tracking
anyways.
the trends, sector moves, and fundamentals shaping the markets in real time. This is Schwab Network. Subscribe at schwabnetwork.com.
Blue sky laws are a fundamental concept.
Live from Chicago, this is Trading 360. I'm Marley Hayden. We track macro forces, market trends, and company news that shape investor decisions, all with expert analysis and actionable context. From inflation data to sector rotations, earnings to policy. It's a comprehensive view of the market every trading day. Trading 360, in-depth market coverage straight from Chicago. Weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on Schwab
Blue
Network.
sky laws are a fundamental concept in security.
All right, welcome back to Opening Bell. Right now, stocks are to the downside, right? You have the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 40 points. Okay, this is an improvement. And you know who's watching us come up off the lows of the morning? That's senior markets correspondent Kevin Green, all over our markets every single day. What are you thinking now as you see these levels and somewhat of a recovery? And I see that for a brief moment, the Dow went into the green.
Yeah, actually, when we started off today's session, we had about 30% of the stocks in the green. And then in a matter of about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, Nicole, we saw that expand out to around 42%. So you did actually see breadth expansion here. A little bit more defensive when you're looking at the sectors that are actually participating. We obviously have energy, which continues to see some positive flows because of the oil markets. But now financials, utilities, and consumer staples are actually in the green. Once again, we started off with only about 3 sectors in the green so far. Now it's about 6 or 7 sectors, so that's actually exactly what you would like to see on a day like today. If you're looking at the level 65.50 to the downside, first major area of support, we basically touched that yesterday. We saw some buyers kind of stepping in. We got within about 7 points of that. If we break below 65.50, I'm looking at 6,500. You really do not want to get towards that level, especially on an options expiration day that could create a little bit more, a lot more actually, volatility in the markets, and not only just for today, but over a long term. And then to the upside, 66.70. We still have a very wide range. The upside flows have not really hit as far as resistance levels over the last couple of days. It seems like we continue to trend towards this more negative gamma area here. But we have a very big day when it comes to the options expiration. Obviously, the news headlines are also going to fuel this market, and we do not have any economic data to really shake up the market here. So this should be, for the most part, actually pure price action.
Yeah, understood. Also, as we see the crude here, $96 right on the nose here for West Texas. I saw Brent at 107 a short time ago. Some of your thoughts, not only on crude, but how it's against the currency, U.S. dollar.
Yeah, there's always has been a very strong correlation between the U.S. dollar, and if you're looking at the dollar index, and oil. And right now what you're seeing is actually that correlation is actually becoming a little bit stronger. So as the dollar moves higher, that has also led to, or also coincides with, oil moving higher, and that also has been a headwind for equities. So unfortunately, we probably will not see a decoupling of this relationship, and until we do, and once we do, that probably would give you one of the all-clear signals that maybe this pullback in the equity market might be at the end. For now, I think this correlation is really key for intraday traders to see where the markets are kind of going here, given the fact that obviously we do have a supply shock here on the oil front. So something to keep on the radar. It's not just oil, it's also the dollar. And the tick by tick, Nicole, you are seeing inverse relationship between the dollar and the equity market. I think that's key.
All right, Kevin Green, all over it all the time. Thank you so much, Kevin. Great to see you. It's time for our market meetup panel. Alex Coffey is back with us, and also George Sillis. Great to see you both. George, some of your thoughts. I mean, are folks looking long term on the S&P 500? Are they trying to look past this month, which is actually the worst month in a year here for the S&P?
Yeah, I think so. There seems to be, just my view, institutions want to buy this market. They just need some headline reprieve. And I think that's, what everyone's waiting for in some capacity in the Middle East. And a lot of folks are looking at things like 200-day moving average, which again, I talked about as well. But, it's a little bit rough because this market's very choppy. So if you actually zoom out a little bit and you look at a rising 50-week moving average, we're still above that, at least on the S&P 500. It could nest down to that level, which is between 65 and 6,600. If we get some, headline risk over the weekend. I did talk about this a couple days ago with options expiration this week, or today now. Institutions want to basically hold the line. And again, I think that's going to be the case today. We're probably going to see a choppy day. I think the range today will probably be within 1%, either higher or lower. But nonetheless, it's a headline-driven market. So the sectors and, of course, the market itself can flip at any moment based on, like I said, some reprieve that's going on in the Middle East.
Yeah, the up volume versus the down volume is, I won't say even. I mean, there is more down volume, but it's not that far off, and sometimes you really see that divergence, right? But most of the sectors, as you know, Alex, have down arrows today, right? So what do you think here?
Oh, they buy debt.
Only about 30. Let's call it one-third. One-third of the S&P 500 components are higher on the session, Nicole. But much like yesterday, a lot of it can just be contributed to the Magnificent Seven dragging down the rest of the market. If I look at it here in real time, 10 points of downside between Microsoft and NVIDIA. Another 10 points in downside between Amazon and Alphabet. Meta, Tesla, and Apple contributing about 5, 6 points. So you're looking at about 25, 26 points of the 35-point decline in the S&P 500 just being from the mega cap tech names that we kind of group up as the Magnificent Seven. And why this is important to me, Nicole, is we kind of tie this to both the long-term picture with sort of the short-term look that Kevin Green was just discussing with you. How did we get here? Over the last several years, going back to the beginning of 2023, which was, in my mind, really when the AI boom began, it's been a hyper-concentrated market. It's been semiconductor stocks. It's been mega-cap tech. And so if we're going to see that broadening out actually occur, or do what George is saying, institutionals putting money to work and rotating maybe out of some of their winners into other parts of the market, that's going to come with a little bit of pain. And the best way for us to feel that pain is slowly over time in almost more of a sideways market as opposed to a quick shift that looks more like maybe August of 2024.
All right. And, you know, I wanted to check in. Thank you for that, Alex. SMCI, see how that is doing on the big news of this morning. We know Bernstein said that this is serious. There's serious credibility issues when it comes to Supermicro. Right now, the stock is down about 26%, even concerned whether or not NVIDIA will begin to distance itself from Supermicro because of these issues. So continue to follow this story, which obviously is the big laggard. George, some of your final thoughts here.
Well, I'll just add to that for Supermicro. I mean, if you look in the S&P, just ranked it by gainers to losers, Dell, which is a server competitor, Supermicro is leading. So clearly the market is picking favorites here based on Supermicro's issues in terms of what they've done. I can't say exactly what they've done, but concerns about some illegality in terms of selling NVIDIA chips illegally to China. So with that said, the market's just picking winners and losers based on that narrative. I also did notice today, too, at least right now, the software names are down again by quite a bit. At least the IGB was down about 2% just a moment ago. So, again, it's a really tough market, especially when you see dispersion within the tech space. And for the most part, the Mag 7 is also to the downside as well right now. But, again, things can turn on a dime. That's the challenge right now because bears are eager to just push this market lower, but they can get trapped at any moment based on some headline reprieve. But again, we could certainly see escalation in the Middle East, oil spike once again, and another drawdown in the market. So that's also something you have to be mindful of. So you have to be aware of the volatility. That's the name of the game right now, unfortunately.
A company offers securities.
Understood. And Alex, your final thoughts here?
Yeah, I think the SMCI story is interesting, not even just as a specific to SMCI, but there's been thought that there's been circumvention of the restrictions and some of these technologies getting to China, whether it was through places like Singapore or other parts of Asia. So, again, I don't know the credibility of the allegations or if ultimately they're going to be guilty of what's they're being accused of. But it does, I think, bring some credence to some of those concerns that this was already happening.
Understood. All right. Great to see you both. Thank you so much. Alex Coffey, George Zillis, and thank you, friends, for being with me here on Opening Bell. I'm Nicole Petalides. Every day, Opening Bell at 9, 2 p.m. I catch you for the watch list. Please join me then. Right now, the Dow's down 105, and keep it right here. Morning Trade Live with Sam Vadas is next.
Which risk?
Schwab Bank Investor Checking, the checking account built for investors. Named highest in client satisfaction by J.D. Power for 7 years in a row. With Investor Checking, you get the award-winning features of our checking account, plus cash management solutions, all designed for investors like you. With unlimited ATM fee rebates for cash withdrawals worldwide, no overdraft fees, and enhanced security features to keep your money safe. Also, because your investor checking account is linked to your Schwab One brokerage account, you can manage your checking and investing in one convenient location. Moving funds between your accounts is easy. Cash moved to your brokerage account is available in seconds. That means you can stop waiting and start investing in stocks, bonds, money market funds, and more. Get more with Schwab Bank Investor Checking, the checking account built for investors.
Shit. A significant reinvestment risk
Welcome to
because
Schwab
homeowners
Network, where
can
real-time
repay
market
their
coverage
mortgages
meets
at
expert
any time,
strategy.
especially
From the
when
opening bell to the
this
closing
rates
bell,
fall. This
we've got you covered.
forcing investors to reinvest.
Get inside the minds of pro traders.
My point is that they're getting
timing.
a higher rate of change in sales based on their guidance, but not the same rate of change on EPS.
Follow the biggest headlines, live analysis,
Which
breaking news, and sharp trade ideas minute by minute.
With shows built for action, we break it all down in real time with speed, accuracy, and precision.
I think one of the most important things is you're making a play in a risk-defined way here going into earnings.
So that would be a further downside area to watch.
Smart insights, actionable data, veteran traders.
Thank, okay, I'm done. We said we'd go until I got a. That was a gimme.
Schwab Network, streaming 24/7.
Well, that was a gimme. Either way, I'm done after this one. But hopefully it's right. Which of the following activities constitutes a prohibited?
Mom, when my grandparents moved here, did they know what our family would become?
I don't even know if they could envision it to leave everything behind, literally come across the entire world. I think that we totally met what their wishes were. Schwab has been with us for almost 25 years through purchasing of houses, opening up our business, having children. They've always been there for us.
I want to invest with a company that can help me give my family a happy financial future.
Manipulating.
Stay connected to what moves the markets. Download the Schwab Network app and stream anytime wherever you are.
Is a prohibited practice because of a violation of fair dealing. What? No. Okay. Alright. That's cool. Alright, well. That's cool. That was a good morning. That was a good session. Good session. Feel good about it. I think we were at like a 16%.
Happy Friday, everybody. We made it. Welcome to Morning Trade Live. I'm Sam Bardas, live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
That would have been a
plenty to
very
hit on both
cool
here and abroad over the
failure.
next hour. So here's a look at what is coming up on today's show. We will examine the impact of the Iran conflict and other geopolitical situations, how it's impacting the commercial
Thanks
real
for
estate
checking
market.
in and financing with Reezuhn on the road to passing the 65.
High this morning after an
I love the
upgrade,
support.
and we're highlighting
We'll be
sports
back.
betting
Oh,
stocks
today's
with
Friday,
March
so we'll be
Madness
back
in
Monday.
full swing.
We'll be back
Let's take a
Monday
look at where
unless
markets
something
stand around half an hour into
happens with the
trading
war
because
and I have to go
we have
live.
seen, of
Yeah,
course,
we'll see
back-to-back
you Monday
losses for our
the
major
market
indices
opening.
over the last couple of days
Peace.
or so, really taking the steam